Hello, boys and girls. So we have been talking about the plant life cycle. So let me go ahead and turn around our board because today we're going to do step number 4 and step number 5. So make sure you have your pages ready. Okay. And I like that I could easily just turn this around and show you guys what we're going to work on today. So today is step number 4 and step number 5. Okay, everyone ready? All right, so we know that for step number 1, we had a seed. Okay, step number 1. We know that the beginning of the plant life cycle begins with a seed. Step number 2. So in my book, step number 2 is germination. Okay, germination. And we know that during germination, there's a tiny little crack in the seed, right? A crack, or it begins to split open, right? So Missy wrote the seed goes through germination by splitting open. So you see that little tiny split right there. Okay, and something's starting to poke out. Germination, okay? Germination. Step number 3. So that should have been the last page we did yesterday. A sprout is growing. So we have right here, seed, germination, and then sprout. So we know that there's a tiny little sprout that's coming out of that seed, okay? Now let's go ahead and review number 4 and number 5. Okay, 4 and 5, okay? All right, so today we're reviewing 4 and 5. Now, obviously, I'm only having you write to page 5. If you want, you can do page step number 6, but you don't have to. You can go ahead and write about seedling, bud, and flower. You can do it all on step 4 and step 5. Okay. So step number 4, we're going to talk about a seedling. And what is a seedling? Who remembers what is a seedling? Yes, we read about it. Good. Good. So when we think about a seedling, we want to go to page 10 where it tells us about the steps of how does a plant begin, right? Awesome. So just like we talked about earlier, it's very important to look in your book for information, right? So here we see that it talks about a seedling. So let me read it to you guys. A seedling starts to grow, roots reach down into the soil, a stem pushes up into the air. Awesome. So with the help of labels, which are very important, we can identify what we're reading about. So here we have leaves, stem, and roots. So it tells us exactly where those parts are. So as we are reading about a seedling, we are able to identify and actually understand what we are reading. So it's very important, boys and girls, that you have your books with you when you are doing your research and you're looking for this. So make sure you have your book with you, okay? Everyone should have the book on remind, okay? So we know that there is a seedling and what it looks like because of the informational text that we have here. So we know that the roots have reached down into the soil. So when we illustrate this, it should look something like this, okay? Now, seedlings have the roots reach into the soil. So they're all the way in the soil. Remember soil? Good. So let's go ahead and turn our board around. And let's begin with our writing for step number 4. Okay, so this one says step number 5. So I'm not quite there yet. I'm still on number 4. Okay, step number 4. Okay, and I want you to write with pencil. I'm writing with marker so that you guys can see it on the video. Okay, so if I do it with marker, it's a little bigger and darker. Okay. But for kinder, I need you guys to write with pencil, okay? Write with pencil. Awesome. All right. So step number 4. After looking at my book, I found out that a seedling starts to grow, okay? After we have a sprout, right? So from the sprout, we have a seedling. A seedling begins to grow by having the roots into the soil, right? So I'm gonna write about a seedling. So step number 4, right? I know I'm gonna talk about a seedling, but what do I have to do before I even get to seedling? What do I have to do? What do I have to grab? Awesome. Yes, not my cover page, but my table of contents. Good. So grab your table of contents. Awesome. Put your book on the side. Awesome. Okay. So table of contents. Don't forget, we need to write step number. Oops, I forgot to do step number. I forgot to do step number 3, but we already know that was a sprout. Okay. Sprout. Step number 4. We know that it is a seedling. Okay. Awesome. And then for step number 5, we'll hold off until we get there, okay? So now that I have my table of contents written, I'm going to put that on the side, okay? Awesome. So step number 4, I'm going to go ahead and draw my illustration. Now, remember, during the seedling, it is sprouting from the ground, right? So I want to make sure that when I draw this, I have it's pushing up from the dirt because it says here, the roots reach down into the soil and the stem pushes up into the air. So you also see what? Because of the labels, we know that it has leaves and a stem. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some leaves. Okay, there we go. So I drew my leaves. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so now let's go ahead and write my sentence. A seedling is starting to grow. Step 4 is seedling. Good. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. A, finger space. What did I use for the first letter in my sentence? Capital. Good. A seedling, finger space, is finger space. It doesn't fit there, so I have to go here. Is pushing up from the soil. Pushing, finger space, up, finger space, from, finger space. It doesn't fit, so let's go to the next line. From the, finger space, soil. Make sure you use that broken line to write all your lowercase letters. The only letter that should be capital is the first letter of the sentence. Also, if you have a name or if you have the month, then you do capitals. But other than that, I don't want to see any more capitals except the first letter of the sentence, okay? Which would be for me is A, okay? Because I'm talking about a seedling, okay? So now that I have my sentence down, let's go ahead and read it one more time. Step number 4, a seedling is pushing up from the soil. What do I have at the very end of my sentence? Awesome. I have a period because a period ends my sentence. Very good. So I want you guys to remember, it is very important to do our check mark at the very end. I've noticed a few of you guys have been forgetting to do this. So make sure you guys do this at all times. All right, so here's my check marks. I want you guys to make sure you are checking for this before we continue. All right, so capital letters. Did I have a capital letter here? Yes, my A. So check mark. Now I want to make sure you guys are using finger space. Did I use finger space? I sure did. Check mark. Did I do punctuation? What's punctuation? Yes. Exclamation, question mark, or period. Did I use that? Yes, I did. And did I draw a picture for my sentence? Yes. So for drawing, let's draw like a little happy face. Did I do my drawing? Yes. I want you to check all 4 of those before you go to step number 5. Okay? If you are not done yet, go back and pause me and then go back and do your writing. Okay? let's go ahead and continue with step number 4. Step number 4. I'm sorry, step number 5. Step number 5. This is why I like you guys being live, but sometimes I have so many lessons to do that I run out of time. Okay, all right, step number 5. What is the next step in our plant life cycle? Who can tell me? Let me just turn this one around. Good, yes, I have my frog one on the back, so we can reuse it again next year. All right, here we go. The next step in the plant life cycle. So we already saw the seedling. So what's next? Good. From the seedling, we get a tiny little bud. Everyone say, hey, bud. Good. Kind of like a buddy, right? Bud. That's what it's called. We get a little buddy on the very top. Yes, the leaves make buddies, right? Yes, think of it like that. So they get a tiny little friend that's poking out and saying, hello, hello. Yes, it is a tiny opening, and we start seeing the bud where the flower will grow, So I want you guys to go ahead and think of the bud as kind of like a buddy for the leaves, right? They want a friend. So when we think about a bud, what exactly does a bud look like? Well, if you look through your book, let's go ahead and go to page 18. Page 18, okay? If you guys have your book, awesome. Flowers bloom. Many plants grow flowers, okay? Now, they start as a bump called a bud. So here's a picture of a bud. This is a great example of what a bud will look like, okay? The bud slowly opens and petals gently begin to unfold. So remember, boys and girls, this is how the flower will look at the end. But when it first begins to open, it starts to look just like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just do that. So here's my soil. Always make sure you have your soil. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and draw my leaves. And then at the very end, I'm going to draw my tiny little bud. And I'm going to start drawing the colors for my bud. Because my flowers, like the ones I showed you guys yesterday, started to look pink, right? So I'm going to draw pink because that's the color that my flower is going to be. Don't forget, you need to make sure you draw your roots as well. Okay? All right. So what did we say about what did we say that buds are? Good. We talked about buds being how the plants grow, right? Flowers blooming. Good. Many plants grow flowers. They start as a bump called a bud. Okay? So step number 5. Our plant gets a bud. Good. You can write that. Very good. What else? Step number 5. Good. A bud begins to grow. Good. Okay, I like that. All right, so A, what did I use at the beginning? Capital A, finger space. A bud. Make sure you use that broken line, okay? Broken line, and make sure everything else is lowercase. A bud, finger space. Begins. Oh, finger space. Doesn't fit there. So I gotta go down here. 2, finger space. Grow. What goes at the end of my sentence? Good. Punctuation. Punctuation. I use a period because it ends my sentence. Good. And at the very end, check for your drawing. Did you do your drawing? Awesome. All right, boys and girls, we are all done. When you are done, you are able to successfully put your book together. So put all your book together. So step number 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But before we finish, before I staple my book together, what do I have to do here? Yeah, step number 5. What did I talk about in step number 5? What did I talk about? Good. a bud. So step number 5, I'm going to write the word bud. Okay, make sure you use that capital letter as the first letter of that sentence too as well, okay? All right, when you are done, please go ahead and send me a page of that you did today, 4 or 5. If you have not sent it to me at all this week, send me all your pages together. So your book should finally be all set and it should look just like this. So you should have your all about plants. You should have your table of contents. You should have step number 1 all the way to step number 5. So the last one should be step number 5. Okay? When you are done, you can staple it and keep it as a collection of all the great work you did. Awesome. I'll see you on Hangout, boys and girls. Bye-bye.